Welcome back to the Muse Capital podcast. In this series, we're talking about the future of how we care. We're thrilled to welcome Joanna Strober, the inspiring and preeminent CEO of Midi Health. Midi is on a mission to bring compassionate, high-quality medical care to women in perimenopause and menopause. The once taboo topic, now menopause is having its moment. We spoke to Joanna on the week of a big announcement that Midi had just raised a massive Series B funding round. And while we were over the moon about what that signals for the women's healthcare space, and of course super proud because we led their pre-seed round, it was business as usual with Joanna just ready to roll up her sleeves and continue on her mission. Hi, Joanna.
Hi.
We're so excited to have you today. We honestly have been looking forward to this chat for a while.
Indeed. It's a pretty exciting week, no?
Yeah, so I kind of want to jump into it. What is happening this week that is newsworthy? And why is this one of the biggest weeks of Midi's journey? Let's jump into that.
You know, it's so funny that you say that because I'm going to talk about the funding. But honestly, it's not one of the most exciting weeks of Midi's journey. We are announcing that we have raised an additional $60 million to scale the company. And it is pretty exciting because now we can take care of lots of women. So we're on track to take care of over 100,000 women this year. I am aiming for 1 million women in the next few years. And I believe now that we have this funding, we'll be able to get there. So that is very exciting. But in many ways, the funding is just part of a journey. And to me, what's most exciting about Midi right now is just that we have a lot of women coming to us to get care. And it is incredibly rewarding to get to experience the happiness and the satisfaction that the women are getting from their care.
Honestly, as investors in Midi and as proudly perimenopausal that I am, I too am happy that Midi is taking care of so many women. And you mentioned that this is not the biggest moment in Midi's journey because there have been so many great ones. And I think that's a good entry point into how we got here and how you got here. Take us back in time to how things were when you first started thinking about building Midi.
You know, it's interesting because I'm wearing my t-shirt, Menopause is hot. A few years ago, when we started thinking about this company, menopause was definitely not hot. People were kind of talking about it a little bit. Women I knew were talking about it, which is why we thought it was a big opportunity, that women were starting to really say, what's going on with my body? Why am I not feeling right? Why do I not have access to great care? And over the last few years, it's exciting that finally it's not embarrassing anymore. You can say, I have menopause, I have perimenopause. And I think it's like a tidal wave of women basically demanding better care. And we've been able to grow the way that we are because there are so many women who are looking to get access to high quality care. And the reality is it's incredibly hard to find. The number of trained providers who can take care of this is just far behind the opportunity. So that to me shows that there is a care gap and that there's an opportunity to solve that care gap.
What is menopause? And how do you know that you're entering menopause or perimenopause?
So menopause, pretty straightforwardly, is just a year without a period. That's all it means. Menopause is a point in time when you haven't had a period. Perimenopause is the period of time leading up to that. And that can start around 35, 40, when your estrogen starts fluctuating like this and going down. And that estrogen fluctuating is what causes a lot of the symptoms that we all think about within menopause. Most of the women coming to us are actually in their 40s. So they're starting to experience perimenopause. We are taking care of older women as well, but a lot of the women who are coming to us are in perimenopause.
Living through it myself, it's actually fascinating to have learned so much over the course of the last few years about hormone health and how hormones affect us. And I'm only learning about it as I go. Thanks to Midi, I'm a happy patient. And a lot of that is really that holistic care. Is that what you consider to be the Midi protocol?
I'm glad you're asking about the protocols. There are 30 plus symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. How do we make sure that women get access to the best care for every one of those symptoms? We talk to the experts around the world, actually. And for every one of the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause, we have created care pathways that include all of those things: hormones, non-hormonal medications, supplements, and lifestyle. And then women don't have to choose. It's all holistic and it's all in one place. And we have that for all of the different symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. For example, in November, we launched our perimenopause and menopause weight loss clinic. A lot of women gain weight in perimenopause and menopause. They don't know where to go to get care. It's not necessarily that they need a GLP-1, although that is something that we're able to prescribe. But it might be that it's because the estrogen is going down, they're gaining weight in their stomach. And that's something that makes them really uncomfortable. What are the things that we can do to treat you there? Maybe it's hormone replacement therapy because there's really good evidence that hormones can help to reshape your body. Maybe it's supplements like berberine, or maybe it's increasing your protein and doing some weightlifting, or maybe it's metformin because you also have prediabetes. We basically have all the solutions for you, and then we lay them out for you, and then it's joint decision making. So then together you could figure out what you're interested in, what works. So we talk to you, we understand what your symptoms are, and then we take care of you.
The other thing that you guys have that I have personally experienced is specialists, because as much as menopause is something universal, we're all individually different and it affects us in different ways. I am a breast cancer survivor, and that comes with its own set of unique characteristics. And so my specialist at Midi is an expert in breast cancer. It's been amazing to experience that firsthand. Can you give us an example of a case?
Yeah. What I feel most proud of is that we have care pathways for all the ways that women come into perimenopause and menopause. So you might be someone who had an oophorectomy because you had the BRCA gene and you go into early menopause because of that, and you need hormones, and we can take care of you for that. Maybe you have a family history of breast cancer and you're scared of having cancer. But actually, hormones are perfectly fine for those people. There is no evidence that people with a family history of breast cancer cannot take hormones. However, a lot of doctors just say no because they don't have the research. So we actually have the research, and we're able to show you that even though you had a family history of breast cancer, hormones are perfectly fine for you, and we're able to prescribe them. Then we have women who are coming in with our weight clinic. We have women coming in with thyroid issues. We have women coming in with libido issues or painful sex issues because of dryness. So it's a pretty broad range of care that we're taking care of. And then I would say the average woman comes to us with 5 symptoms, not just one. Sometimes it takes 3 to 4 visits. It takes coming back and iterating. But usually after just a few visits, people have the right hormones or the right supplements or whatever they're interested in, and they're feeling better.
Midi is a virtual clinic. So how do you engage the patient with blood tests? And is there an offline component to Midi depending on the patient, and follow-up care? How does that work?
Yes. So we have partnerships around the country with health systems, but regardless of whether we have a partnership with your local health system, we will send you to get a mammogram, and we will send you to get a blood test. There's no reason you have to have our type of visit in person. This is actually the perfect visit for talking and for having a conversation, but we will make sure that you get whatever in-person care is appropriate.
I want to dive a little bit deeper into why there has been this lack of care and why it's taken the world this long to get to a company like Midi.
Honestly, it's economic. This type of care is not as highly paid as specialty care. So in our system, we have a situation where primary care is not compensated in the same way that specialty care is. Primary care physicians are mostly not trained in taking care of women's health issues. The people who are trained in it are OBGYNs. 83% of those don't have more than 2 hours of menopause care, but they're in our system primarily compensated for taking care of babies. So this type of care is not highly compensated, and therefore there's not a lot of people who go into it. So the gap is primarily economic. It is also a gap that was created by the women's health research that happened over 20 years ago that was misinterpreted. And because of that research that made people unnecessarily scared of taking hormones, all research stopped on this for 20 years. And basically what we're seeing now is an entire generation of women who haven't gotten the right care. So our job is to train all of our providers on what is modern perimenopause and menopause care. And then how do we make sure that women get access to that perimenopause and menopause care? And for us, it really comes down to making sure we have insurance coverage so that this is part of the healthcare system. It's not something you have to pay $1,000 to a concierge doctor to get access to.
Fascinating. I think when we were doing our research at Muse Capital, when we were looking at the economic potential of this particular sector, 4 or 5 years ago now, we were finding that actually in this demographic, women were spending up to $20,000 just themselves on this particular issue. And so, for the healthcare system that said that there isn't money, in this opportunity, I think we saw the opposite. And I think on that, we'd love to know, what are the stats on this industry and kind of the size of the opportunity? Maybe you can share with the audience how big this potentially can be.
Yes, there are 57 million women just in our age category. And that doesn't include women who go into early menopause or surgical menopause. That's just in this one age category. And by some number I saw, I'm not sure if this is true, that said there was one trained expert in this for every 70,000 women. And then even those providers often are concierge care. So they charge $1,000 an hour for you to get this care. So access to high quality insurance covered care is just about non-existent. Women do a lot of poly shopping because there's not one place to go for expertise that's specifically trained in women's health. They might go to a sleep specialist, and then they'll go to a therapist, and then they'll go to an anxiety specialist. And every one of those people look at your body. They go, oh, you have thinning hair. Let's take care of your thinning hair. Oh, your face is looking older. Let's take care of that. But those same people are not trained in hormones. So they don't understand the hormonal components to your hair thinning or to your face issues or to your anxiety, to your depression, to all the different things that are tied to estrogen. That's been OBGYNs over here. Then you have the rest of the medical community over here. And because they're not tied together, women don't get access to the right care. And so that's really our job, is to give women holistic care that starts by looking at you as a woman first and says, okay, you are a woman in this age category. Almost 35 different symptoms or more that you're experiencing are probably related to estrogen and probably related to the issues as a woman. So let's start with that and then go out for the other reasons. Honestly, we have a lot of marriage therapists sending us their patients. All sorts of people go to a marriage therapist, and the women are frustrated and angry. The men are frustrated and angry. And a lot of times those things actually can have to do with women going through perimenopause. And so if you can straighten out some of the hormonal issues, then you can get to the real issues in your marriage and the core root of some of the problems.
I think it's fascinating that you're able to provide a company that can do both, like functional medicine, supplements, etc., but also prescription if needed. We always think why in women's health and just healthcare in general, this doesn't just exist. And maybe you can talk to that and how you were able to make that work. And interestingly, the fact that you said you can do this through insurance. Curious how you were able to make that happen at Midi.
So there's two questions there. With regard to insurance covered care, we have set up a national healthcare practice. So our providers are licensed throughout the country to provide insurance covered care. We have nurse practitioners and physicians that have often an office, and they practice virtual care around the country. We get in network with insurance companies is as a medical provider. With regard to the naturopathic question, naturopathic medicine has not been reimbursed by insurance in the same way as traditional medicine. So what we did was we hired naturopaths to train all of our providers on naturopathic medicine. We have naturopathic doctors who participated in the creation of our protocols. So the care is provided by medical experts, but they have been educated in all of the naturopathic medicines. And there's actually some very effective ones. So black cohosh has always been known as something that absolutely can help for hot flashes. But you might not know, for example, that lavender has been proven to be just as effective as some of the antidepressant medications for taking care of anxiety. So there are excellent products out there. And then the next step is, are they high quality? And are you getting offered the right one? So one of the challenges is that a lot of the people who create these supplements, they don't offer very high quality and they don't really actually work. So a lot of the ones that you see, quite honestly, by the celebrities, they don't actually work. So we have found producers who create high quality supplements that we feel are evidence-based and are impactful. And so those are the ones that we recommend.
I mean, I'd love to plug my favorite cream right now, which is your estrogen cream that I've been putting on my face. And I kid you not, I am literally seeing the effects. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because when I started posting about this cream, I have everyone all over the world going, get me some of that estrogen cream. And it's crazy. So walk us through, why does that work? What is it doing?
Let's talk about it. It's such a great topic.
Yeah.
So I love this. One of the things that happens as we age is our skin gets thinner, right? And so as women get older, the lines of our vagina get thin. And that creates a situation where sex starts to hurt. So if you put estrogen in your vagina, which is one of the things that we prescribe, then it thickens the wall of your vagina and it actually brings moisture to the walls of the vagina, and therefore it makes sex more enjoyable. So your face is also skin, right? It's the same. So it's a little bit weaker estrogen. We don't put the estrogen cream on our face. We use something called estriol. But essentially what it does is the estriol thickens the wall of it thickens your skin. So it thickens the dermis and it brings moisture to your face. And the same thing it does to your vagina. And I hate to say it like that, but I think it's pretty funny. And I think about that all the time. But people who are using the estrogen cream, they can see a difference in their face because it feels moisture and it is scientifically evidence-based to help women's aging skin. So it's exciting that we have that.
I mean, it's kind of amazing that we're having these conversations. It's pretty wild. I'm just super grateful that Midi exists for everyone out there and that we don't have to suffer like our moms did.
Maybe we can go back in time and talk about funding for the space and the category and how this looked 5 years ago versus today. And maybe it's a good way to talk about how we met. What was funding for a menopause company like back then?
Honestly, being an early stage company is hard for anyone. So I think you should take a step back. Forget about menopause company. Starting a company in any space is hard. And you need to find believers. And convincing people a few years ago that this was a space was not easy. So honestly, now it looks like, 100,000 women, clearly this is an opportunity. But when we started talking, that was not clear at all. And so it required people like you guys who could understood the world that we were painting and the story that we were trying to create and could be supportive really early and could understand the vision before it existed. And so I'm super appreciative of that.
It was a pleasure to meet you and to lead your pre-seed. That's a good segue, Rachel, into how we came to Midi.
It was very fortuitous timing, I think, because at Muse, we like to do a lot of deep dives on just the women's health space in general. And I remember back then, we did do a deep dive on the menopause space and talked to a lot of players out there. And we just saw that there was this gaping hole for the 360-degree catch-all clinic that just could help women with all of these symptoms. And so we were out there effectively looking for exactly what you were building. And then I think my Kaufman fellow, Whitney, was like, oh, hey, I think there's this amazing woman that's actually building exactly what you're talking about. And we met. But, on our side too, like convincing investors that this was a space that was not only large enough, but could generate actual returns was tough to sell. So it was amazing to meet you back then.
And it's why this week is so important for us too. It's for the industry as a whole. And we are proving what we knew was true, which was this is big business. Mm-hmm. These women have been overlooked and companies like this have been underfunded for far too long. And you and your founders blew our mind when we met you. You were just building it out and you had just put the vision together. All there really was a team.
That was it, right.
And a vision. Talk to us about your team. You've got a killer team that started this with you.
We do. We have an amazing team of people. So my co-founder in this, Sharon Mears, she and I had been friends for 20 years. We actually wrote a book together called Getting to 50-50 that came out in 2008. And so we knew we wanted to do another project together. And we joked this was our COVID project. So we started working together, and then we brought on Jill Herzig. And Jill had been a magazine editor for most of her career. She had worked at all the top women's magazines, and she really understood how to talk to women and how to understand women. And that was a big component of what we needed to do. And then we brought on Dr. Kathleen Jordan, who is a phenomenal internal medicine doctor. And she had also opened the first telemedicine practice in San Francisco. So she understood telemedicine. And she had worked at another women's health company. So she understood women's health. And then finally, we brought on Dr. Mindy Goldman. Dr. Goldman was the head of the survivorship clinic at UCSF. And getting back to, we talked about one of the first things we wanted to do is focus on survivors. Survivors, number one, need care. So breast cancer survivors need both hormone solutions and non-hormonal solutions. So someone who is an expert in breast cancer menopause care could do both all of the hormones and all of the supplements. And so that was a key way that we wanted to start the company. If we could take care of those women, we could take care of all women. So that was our initial team. Now we have over 100 providers working for us. We have a really extraordinary group of nurse practitioners and physicians who are taking care of our patients. That's the most important thing that we do. Our product is not something that you can get off the shelf. Our product is our care. And that is core to everything that we do. We have a lot of education that goes into that to make sure that when you come to have a Midi visit, you have access to incredible expertise. And that is something that I feel probably the most proud of, is that our CSAT score is 95. Women come to us, they feel really good about the care that they give. And our job is just to figure out how, on a national basis, to scale that incredibly high level care.
So where do you see yourselves in 5 years? Where do you see yourselves in 10 years? What's the vision for Midi?
Millions of women. I think we can take care of millions of women. That is truly the goal. And I think that is absolutely a possibility. So we're starting this company at a really interesting time, because there is a massive shortage of OBGYNs and a massive shortage of primary care providers. We can be that intersection between the OBGYNs and the primary care. And we can take care of a lot of the things that women need during really this entire period of their life, which is 30 years of their life. We want to build the trusted brand for women's healthcare in midlife. And one thing I joke a lot about that I feel very strongly about is we are here to help women thrive. A lot of the medical system is here to keep you alive. And that's really important. I want those doctors to do that work and to keep you alive. But we need more than that. And we need the opportunity to thrive. And that's what Midi is about.
I love that you use the word thrive, because that's really, we are sisters in arms when it comes to hoping all women thrive. They thrive physically, to be their best physical self, and their performance, their body's performance, really kind of being at the level that it should be. But also we want women to thrive financially and to be more in control of capital markets and investing in companies. And so I just love that you use the word thrive, because we're all about that at Muse.
Yeah, we're done of women just suffering in silence.
in all areas.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we're that generation that are like, nah, this isn't okay. This isn't how the other half of the population kind of suffer. So why should we? I think it's time. And it's because of companies like yours that this is changing.
It's exciting. It's exciting that women actually honestly have capital to invest in these type of things. So part of why these businesses couldn't have existed before is that women didn't have capital to invest.
I mean, 15% of women work in VC. And of those 15%, only 2% have the power to write a check. Now, those stats were even worse when we first started Muse. They are getting better. But I can say optimistically that it's successes like Midi and this announcement this week that will help get those numbers to where they need to be.
Because if there's only 15% of women, these women are pitching to pretty much male investors who do not understand the pain points. And then it's, oh, let me ask my wife. You see the stats out there that only 2% of venture capital dollars goes into female-founded companies. And so on the deeper systems level, that has to change.
What you guys are doing is incredibly important, is being able to fund early stage companies, because You got to believe in the dream, and you got to give people enough capital to start building out those dreams.
We're with you on that one.
Thank you, Joanna, for what you and the team are building. We're super excited that you're improving the lives of hundreds of thousands of women, and in the future, millions.
We're going to get to millions.
Women. And huge congratulations on the news this week and the milestone. And we still think this is just the beginning.
We're excited too. So thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Joanna.
Thanks, Joanna.
Thanks so much for listening. For additional information, check out our show notes. And to find out more about Midi, go to www.joinmidi.com. As always, you can find out more about us at musecapital.vc. Next episode, we'll be speaking to Dawn Scott, the Vice President of Performance, Medical, and Innovation for the women's soccer team Washington Spirit, as well as Olympique Lyonnais and London City Lionesses. Special thanks to our executive producer, Lauren Maddock, and our engineer and composer, John Meek. Ciao for now.